Okay, so we are forward in time now. We are in Germany, 1919, 1920s when Caligari is released. So we can say 1920. But these are the two films we're going to talk about. Cabinet of Dr. Caligari and Nosferatu, German Expressionist films that are very heavily influencing horror films. One of them you might not watch and say, oh, that's horror, but the other one I think is kind of hard to deny that it is a horror film. Also, writing this, Nosferatu, I got an idea. I'm going to make a movie about a vampire who wants to be a ballet dancer, and I'm going to call it Nosferatu. Okay, so Cabinet of Dr. Caligari is the first movie we're going to talk about. It was directed by Robert Wien, a German film director, written by Karl Mayer and Hans Janowitz. Karl and Hans, not Hans and Franz, those are different guys. Karl and Hans were both in the World War, like pretty much everybody was in Germany. And they came back and they were anti-authority and very much pacifists. So come out of the war, they meet each other, they decide to write a story expressing some of the feelings that they were having about their country at the time, right? They're looking around at this make Germany great again thing and they don't like it. So they try to write a movie to express that. They take the movie around, and it's apparently one of the people they take it to try to get made is Fritz Lang. Fritz Lang is the one that comes up with the framing device that frames the movie. So there's the prologue and epilogue. That is a man sitting on a bench telling somebody else's story, which is the movie. So eat your heart out, Forrest Gump. The film itself is about a sleepwalker who is controlled by a hypnotist, and he performs a series of murders. So Karl and Hans also were not happy with what they saw as the rich preying on the poor, so which is pretty much what happens in this movie. If you watch the other video explaining what's going on and you're still not sure what German Expressionism is, you look at anything in Caligari and that's the best example. It was filmed on a stage, but the set designs and everything don't look like they're trying for realism, right? So there's the houses and everything, it's all jagged and it just looks different. The movie itself is not heavily lit. There's a climax with a big set piece. Eat your heart out, Spielberg. It ends with a twist ending. Eat your heart out, Shyamalan. Yeah, so that's the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. Starring the sleepwalker is played by Conrad Veidt. So Conrad Veidt was a German actor, obviously. He was also the star of a movie called The Man Who Laughs. And in The Man Who Laughs, he has the big exaggerated smile, which is the inspiration for the Joker, right? So if you've ever wondered what a goth guy like Tim Burton is doing, making a Batman movie, because Batman before Tim Burton in public consciousness was the 60s Batman, right? This is two totally different Batmans. But I have a feeling that Burton was very influenced by these movies, and maybe a chance to put the Joker in his movie was one of the reasons he took that movie, right? The makeup design for The Man Who Laughs. We'll get to the makeup artist later in our next movies because he is very influential in makeup design, makeup artists, in horror movies. Conrad Veidt, by the way, Rise of Nazi Germany, he wasn't too happy with it. They made everybody sign contracts saying that they supported the Nazi Party and its values and ideals, and they also had to say that they were not Jewish. And Conrad Veidt was not Jewish, but he said he was. His wife was Jewish, and so he fled Germany, went to England, he's there. He went to Hollywood, and he said, "Hey, Hollywood, you need a German for your movies. I am the authentic thing. I'll play that German under one condition." And his condition was that he would play Germans that were the bad guy, irredeemable. He wanted American audiences to look and see and associate Germany with evil because he's not happy with those Nazis. One of the movies he appeared in as the evil German, Casablanca. He is Major Strasser. So that's the Cabinet of Caligari. A little bit of trivia there for you. Next, we're going on to Nosferatu. So Nosferatu was an adaptation of Dracula. Unlicensed adaptation, which got Nosferatu into a lot of trouble. But yeah, directed by F.W. Monroe, another person who fled Germany, came to Hollywood, won an Academy Award. 1929, there was 2 awards for Best Picture. One of them was for the movie we like the most, and the other one was for the movie that we think is actually the best. So he won one of those. And then on the way to the premiere of one of his movies, he was in a car accident and he died. But that's FW. A lot of the look of the movie is inspired by part of the production. There was a man called Alban Grau, and Alban Grau was a cultist. Alban Grau was actually in the same occult group as Aleister Crowley, Mr. Crowley. So that's a lot of what's going on in this movie. Caligari, if you watch it, it kind of feels like a dream. It's weird. Everything's different. Nosferatu is more of a nightmare. It's more of like the shadow of death is looming over everything, right? So they couldn't get the rights to Dracula, so they just changed some names. The setting is all in Germany, it's all German names, but the plot, basically the same thing. Instead of Count Dracula, we have Count Warlock. There is no one named Nosferatu in the movie. Nosferatu just means devil, so I guess that would be Count Warlock. Played by Max Schreck. So, Max Schreck is also the character, or the name of the character, of Christopher Walken's bad guy in Batman Returns, the second Tim Burton movie, or Batman movie that Tim Burton made. If you look at that movie, the visual style, and the visual style you probably associate with Tim Burton, is very much the visual style of Caligari. So, he stole the visuals. You liked your Joker, stole the name of the actor for his bad guy. That Max Schreck is not a Batman villain prior to that in any of the comics. Side note, part of the reason that Tim Burton agreed to make another Batman movie was he was told, what if you make it a Tim Burton movie? It's very much a Tim Burton movie. Back to Nosferatu, because that's what the video is about. Yeah, so couldn't get the rights to Dracula. The appearance of Count Warlock is very different from what most people would associate with Dracula. He's bald, he's very tall, fangs are in the middle of his mouth, more like a rodent, long fingers and fingernails. Count Warlock is not attractive, it's not your sexy vampire. That would come later, right? Vampires right now are not sexy, but still, the lead, I think Nina is the character's name, is drawn to him, right? So it makes it more unexplained. Why is she drawn to this force? Nosferatu features one of the first montages on film, so there's lots of intercutting scenes that narratively don't really have anything to do with what's happening in the movie, but they represent a feeling. They express the overall general mood of the movie. There's images you may have seen of Nosferatu. The two most famous ones is his shadow creeping up the stairway. And then the second one is Nosferatu rising from his coffin. And he just rises straight up. So you've probably seen that. If not, if you've seen any vampire, What We Do in the Shadows has a Nosferatu style vampire. So it's that different vampire with the fangs different in his mouth, right? And then there's a movie Shadow of the Vampire, is that what it's called, with John Malkovich. And that whole movie is based on like the myth of the theory that Max Schreck was indeed a vampire. I think there's a storyline in American Horror Story 2 where F.W. Monroe is a vampire and he comes to Hollywood and he turns Hollywood into vampires. That's your thing. Cool. Yeah, so those are the two movies we're talking about now. Have you seen them? What do you think? Next, we're going to talk about two people in film history. I'm going to do a video on Lon Chaney and Todd Browning, and then that will lead into the next. I'll do another double feature of movies. See if you can figure out what they are based on those two people. We're going to jump a little bit ahead again to 1931. Until then, like, subscribe. You might have more than 2 friends now, so tell that new guy. He's pretty cool.